Hello, I hope everyone's having a blessed day and just everything's good. I just hope everything's good with you guys. There's a specific issue I wanted to talk about, with especially like this whole thing that's coming up with like these guys that recently were Christians and then like no longer became Christians. I forgot what their names were. But basically I want to shed some light on a certain issue that I think is extremely prevalent and isn't being addressed. All right? A lot of people, they love to defend their faith but don't actually have any faith. All right? What do I mean by this? All right? You defend your faith in the sense that like, oh, you're a Christian. When a Muslim guy comes to you, you start going like, oh, Jesus this, Jesus that. But in your own life, you do not obey Christ at all. All right? And I'm saying it like we're all sinners, we screw up. But the thing is, like, you don't even put this at the front of your life. You know what I mean? You have a Tinder account, you have a Hinge account, you watch porn and you don't even care. You're unrepentant, you're not convicted, you don't think any of what you're doing is actual sin. But until it comes to actually like obeying God, right? I mean, not obeying God, when it comes to like defending being a Christian, right? All of a sudden you're like, oh, Jesus this, Jesus that. You know what I mean? Very, very hypocritical. We have a lot of that in the church today. If we look at what Jesus did and what his people, his followers did, his apostles, how they converted people, it wasn't by going around and saying, oh, um, uh, the Jews are this, that, that. This religion, the pagans are that, that, that. Right? No. Sure, they did a little bit of that, but the main way that Jesus converted people or brought people to the faith was through action. All right? The biggest reason why everyone has faith in Jesus is because he died for their sins. That action, living out what a Christian is, living out a godly life. People would believe Paul because of how he would go around with such bold faith, evangelizing and talking about Christianity, and how he would perform miracles with deep faith. The actions he would do, the work he would do, right? That is what made people see, wow, this is what Christianity is. I want to be part of that. All right? But when you make Christianity just a bunch of lukewarm, cozy Christians that only, when it comes to defending their faith in the sense of just words, right? Then they go like, oh, Christianity, Christianity this, Christianity that. But when it comes to actually living out their faith, when no one's watching, when the lights are off, all right, even though people will be watching at times, just generally, they do not live out their faith, all right? They only live it out when it's convenient. They only live it out when it creates a good image for themselves, all right? They don't actually have any faith. They just like the title of Christian, all right? So that's why I feel like a lot of people don't want to be converted to Christianity anymore, all right? Or a lot of people are leaving the faith. Because and if you talk to atheists, this is one of the biggest reasons. It's because although Christianity says this, Christians are doing something completely different, all right? And when this is happening, how can you blame someone? How can you blame someone for like not wanting to be a Christian? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you an example, something that you guys could understand a bit better. Let's say I wanted to learn piano, right? Okay? I look online, I look at this one piano teacher's reviews, so good, everything said about them is great, but then when they actually go and try to teach me piano, they can't even play a single chord. They can't even read notes off of a sheet, right? Why would I want to learn from that person? Why would I want to surround myself with that person? They aren't what they stand for, and they lie to me, in fact. In fact, they show me they're a liar, not anything standing up for anything good, right? So by doing that, in a Christian sense, you tell people, oh, the Christianity this, Christianity that. But when it comes to actually living your faith, we're adulterers, we lust, sex before marriage is extremely prevalent in Christian youth. Alright? Extremely big. Extremely big. Alright? So when you have these kinds of issues, right? So as I was saying, Christians are standing for something, saying one thing, and doing the complete opposite, right? They don't care at all about actually following the Bible. They just like proving how much they're right. It's not about faith. It's not about actually saving that person. It's just about your pride. Alright? So, I want to kind of explain how we can be better Christians. How we can truly demonstrate faith in a way that will make people want to become Christians. Alright? Alright, these are a few main points that I've been able to just come up with on the spot. And I'll just add some if any come up, but these are the main points. Alright? I'll go over the first one. Living out the faith in public or in privacy. Alright? Christianity isn't a part-time job. You're not supposed to be a part-time Christian. It's a way of life. Alright? It's something to uphold. Because although other people aren't watching you, God's always watching me. Right now, He's in my room watching me right now. Okay? And I felt convicted to make this video. And I have to do it. You see, that's what I mean. You have to live out your faith in public as in privacy. So, in privacy, when you're at home, right? You always have to act as if the Lord is watching you, right? Because it's just as important, not just, and we're talking about spreading Christianity, right? So the importance of speaking about it, of upholding it in privacy, is that even if in your own house, in your own privacy, you can't even uphold these laws, how can you ever expect to have respect for these rules in public if you can't even respect them in your own household? You understand what I'm trying to say? Alright? That's for in terms of just spreading the word. Alright? And the reason why it's important to uphold this is because, as I said earlier with that example, right? It's kind of like this. Let's say you want to learn from a personal trainer to help get your body in shape, right? Are you going to typically go to a personal trainer that's obese? No. Because you want to learn from someone from example, right? And that's the same thing. You want to get a taste of what you're getting yourself into, right? And when you see that the person that's trying to spread the gospel to you truly lives by faith, and he genuinely believes in what he does, in or out of the public eye, that shows you that he truly believes and lives it for what he believes in, right? Which gives greater authority to what you're talking about, right? Because if your words are empty because they're not supported by your actions, people won't take you seriously. This is honestly with anything, right? If you say, I know this, I know that, but you don't have any substantial proof to support that fact, people aren't going to believe you, all right? So for that same reason, when you're trying to convince someone to be a Christian, right? When you're trying to spread the faith to them, you have to do so by first being of faith yourself. God literally says this, right, in the Bible. He says, you're trying to remove the planks, you're trying to remove the splinters out of someone else's eyes when you literally have planks in your own, all right? You're trying to talk about this sinner, saying, oh, look at you, you're in the wrong, when in reality, you're in much more wrong probably than this guy, all right? So for that reason, before you decide to spread out the faith, make sure you're at least adequate. Because we're never going to be perfect. Jesus is only perfect. But at least be a follower of the heart. You truly follow him from the heart. Alright? You live out your faith. Genuinely. Taking up your cross instead of falling into your flesh. Right? Instead of buying these fancy shoes you want this month, spend that money on your local homeless shelter. These are the type of things that live out the faith. Alright? And that's what you need to be doing. Because those actions, right? I feel like a lot of atheists would be so much more convinced to be Christian when they see a bunch of Christians every week on a Friday going to a homeless shelter and giving people food and things that they need, and then just saying God bless you, rather than winning an argument about this transcendental argument. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying like arguments aren't bad in that sense, right? But God literally said, spread my word through love. Alright? Through love is how we want to spread it. Alright? Sorry, just 1 sec, guys. There was an ant. Anyways, and like, I'm very, very afraid of insects. Not afraid, they just like eke me out of it. You know what I mean? There's no like reason to be afraid of them, but like, I don't know, they just seem creepy. But anyways, live out the faith, all right? Because someone won't want, you can only show the true, like Jesus literally said, you'll know if someone is of me by their fruits, right? So if you want to see what being of God is, right? And convince people by showing them what being of God is, don't convince them with arguments. Convince them with genuine faith and action in following the Lord. Alright? It's not going to church and saying you're a Christian and then right after you leave church matching with the girls on Tinder or Hinge. That's not how it works. Alright? You have to be genuine of your faith. You must truly believe in God. That is what separates, I feel, lukewarm Christians from real Christians. Is that they actually believe in what they're talking about, genuinely, with all their heart. They're ready to die for it. If you're a Christian and I asked you, and I put a gun to your head, genuinely, do you think you'd be willing to die for your faith? If it even takes you a second to answer that question, you are lukewarm. Alright? And I know it's not my place to judge others, but this is just a fact of the Bible. Alright? It's truth. It's not a judgment call, it's truth. It's 1 + 1 = 2. Alright? If you're not ready to lay down your life for Jesus, how can you call yourself on fire for God? A Christian. Right? Because that term got diluted so much, what it means to be a Christian. Right? So before you try to convince others, make sure that you yourself are a Christian first. So let's say you're in a friend group with some Christians and Muslims, right? And then, what's it called? You guys are just walking, like in a group of 5 people. It's like 2 Christians, 2 Muslims, and I don't know, 1 Hindu, for an example, right? Let's say the feeling of, let's say your friends fall upon, like, look at some girl and then go like, wow, she has a fat butt, alright? She has a fat butt, she has big boobs, something like that, right? Putting your faith first means that in that situation, instead of being someone that just tags along with the group and goes like, yeah guys, that's a big fat, no, you don't go like that. You say, I'm sorry guys, let's not talk about that. You must be willing to lose your friends and your family before you lose your relationship with God. Alright? Right now, I don't have too many friends at all. Maybe like 1 really good friend. Alright? And I'm happy with that. It's because I'd rather be a faithful follower of Christ than have a bunch of lukewarm friends that don't care about God and are going to take me away from Him than take me to Him. Alright? You guys should have a similar mindset. Okay? Because not only is this important for you yourself, when you're trying to convince someone that's your friend, someone that's really close to you, your family, right? And then you put you take your flesh instead of denying yourself and taking up your cross when it comes to those situations that really push comes to shove, right? When you do that, it truly shows what your faith stands for, right? And when your faith stands for something that only when it's convenient you follow it, right? Especially amongst your friends and people you love, right? When you try to convince them to join that faith, how likely are they to do so? How likely are they to think that what you stand for is legit and something you truly believe in if you won't even follow it yourself? This is kind of like going on to the previous point, but it's going into that point in the sense and relative to like the people around you, your friends, your family, how you act around them, and how that image ruins their image of faith. Alright? Ever since I became a Christian, whenever I screw up, my parents tell me, or my other family members tell me, what kind of Christian are you? And they're absolutely right. What kind of Christian am I? But the thing is, as a Christian, I'm not supposed to beat myself up and then just like be depressed from that. No. I'm supposed to sit down on my knees and pray and ask for forgiveness and strength to push forward and become better. Right? And that's what you guys should be doing as well when you're stricken with these temptations in life. Right? Push forward. Do not be lukewarm. Be fiery for God and stand for Him before all other things in life. He comes first. He always should come first. Before your dad, your mom, your wife, your brother, your sister, your kids. Love, like God literally said it. The most important commandment is loving the Lord your God with all your heart. Okay? And this is absolutely true. Because if you don't stand for God first before all things, who are you going to be for those other people below God? Your mom, your dad. If you don't hold God to such a level of adherence of authority, that you don't base who you are off of God, and you carry that over to how you treat the people in your family, right? It shows that you're someone that doesn't stand for anything, right? You're not firm in your faith. You're lukewarm. Don't take what this guy says seriously. He doesn't even believe in it. Why should I? Right? And if you don't even put the God first in your life above all other things, what do you stand for? If you don't stand for something, you don't stand for anything. And if you stand for something that's not God, it's against God. So are you either going to stand with God or against Him? Because if you stand with Him, you'll bring all the people in your life that you love and cherish to God, then away from Him. So put Him first. The main way, like a big thing of how people saw Jesus was of how knowledgeable He was in the scripture, how He acted, right? With the adulterous woman. When the Jewish Pharisees pulled that adulterous woman in front of Him, He didn't say, well, in the Levitical law it says this is the law of... No, He didn't do that. He spread it with love. He told them, said, he who has not sinned, cast the first stone. We are all sinners. He's trying to say, all are sinners, right? So what's the point of ridiculing this person over their sin when you have sins yourself? Who are we to judge others when we have sins ourselves? With divine truth and love in His words, right? And humility. That's how He spread the word, right? That's how He spread love. He didn't use quoted paragraphs or anything like that. He used humility and love. And that's how we must spread God, His word. People saw how righteous this man was, and they followed Him, right? And Jesus said to yourself, all followers of mine, make disciples. And how can you make disciples? By replicating Jesus. And what did Jesus do? He followed the Lord's will. So follow God's will, follow what He wills, and that is what we're supposed to do. Alright? That is what's going to bring people to God than away from Him. Because if you think there's a better way to bring people to God, then you're literally trying to say, oh, I know what's a better way to bring people to God than what Jesus did. Which is wrong. Jesus knows the best way. And He said, by living out your faith, by doing your Father's will. Alright? So that's that for this point. Okay? And I'll win hearts, not arguments. This keys off of my last point. Alright? You're trying to win hearts. You're not trying to win arguments here. Right? In the sense that, like, I'm arguing with my Muslim friend, right? I don't want him to, like, become a Christian because I'm proving points and facts to him. No. I want him to become a Christian because he sees God's love and righteousness in me and other Christians. I want him to see what Christianity is, what it means. Because that is what convinces people. My testimony. I was in the worst place of my life. The worst place of my life. And then a Christian guy came to me and he said, man, like, you're trying to focus on all these other things in life, but God takes away other things from us when we don't put Him first. He reached out to me with a genuine love. He didn't say, well, you know atheism's wrong. No, he didn't say that. He said, I want the best for you. Like I got this intention. I want the best for you. God's going to take other things away from you, man, unless you put Him first. If you want, I could send you some Bible verses and help you get into it. And from that day, August 2024, I was a Christian because of that answer He gave me, because of that, like, genuine kind of help that I was getting from a cry out for help. Alright? He wasn't giving me an argument, He was just trying to help me. Because as a Christian, He loved me and everyone else. So that's how you want to be talking to Christians. You want to to non-believers or people of other faiths. Win their hearts with your actions, with the way you act, with the things you say, not with arguments. Alright? Arguments are best, in my opinion, for after you already become a Christian, to keep you as a Christian. Right? From doubting your faith. But in terms of actually bringing people to Christianity, especially like atheists, I think, it would help if people actually started living out their faith. Because I hear a bunch of atheists saying, like, people don't even stand for, like, the Jesus that's in the Bible, right? And I think some of it may be for other reasons, like, because they think somehow, like, Jesus would, like, stand for, like, being gay is okay, but that's completely wrong. But most of them are right. A lot of Christians don't live out their faith. As a Christian, if you're watching this, right, when was the last time you donated something? When was the last time you genuinely looked at your paycheck and thought about, first, how much of this am I going to be giving away? How much of this is going to go to helping people? Thinking about others before yourself. When was the last time you saw someone that looked like they were struggling and you just genuinely wanted to help them? When was the last time that happened? When was the last time you thought about someone else but yourself? When was the last time you thought about your faith when it hasn't come to defending it from someone of a different faith or defending it from an atheist? When you look at yourself, taking away the cross on your neck, if it's even there, right? Or the Bible's in your house, taking all of that away, right? And just looking at who you are, looking at your life, rolled back from the beginning to now, right? Do you think you would look at yourself and say, wow, this person was a Christian. This person really stood for Jesus. If you can't even look to yourself and say, wow, this guy stands for God. This guy is someone that represents who God really is, right? How do you ever expect to convince other people of that? Really consider that. How am I going to convince other people to be Christian when I can't even convince myself that I'm a Christian when I just look at my life? Really let that sink in. So that's the final point, right? But this can all be summarized in one verse in the Bible, which, as I mentioned earlier, is Here, I'll actually get the actual verse for you guys. Right here. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? When you look at someone else, you say, wow, this guy's sinful. Wow, this guy's a Muslim. I need to convince him. I need to go talk to him. Right? But in reality, you don't see the mirror right in front of you showing that you are, who are you to say this man's a sinner when you are full of sin yourself, when you do not live for God yourself? Take the plank out of your eye first before you think you're any ready to go convince a Muslim. And if you're in a stage where you think you have a plank in your eye and you see someone, another Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever, right? And you're in that stage where you have a plank, just tell them, hey, I'm a Christian, man. You can look into it if you want. I believe in Jesus, but I need to live out my faith better myself before I think I'm ready to convince other people. I need to know more about my faith before I think I'm ready to convince other people. Humble yourself. Humble yourself to see the plank in your own eye. Because until you take that step in humility to see that, wow, I'm not going to swear, my stuff does stink, you know what I mean? I am not all good, right? When you truly see that, before you judge someone else, right? You can see that, wow, I'm in no place to really think I'm someone that should be doing this right now. I don't even live out my faith myself. It's like you're trying to win a battle when you have no forces. You're trying to wage a war when you have no soldiers. You're trying to do something with no foundation. Build your faith. Live in your faith. Educate yourself in God's word. Immerse yourself in a godly life. Then you know what God truly stands for. Then when you show the love of God, when you show the love of Christ, when it comes to showing other people this love of Christ and this love of God, they will see it in you, that before a word even comes out of your mouth, they're going to ask you, what God do you follow? I want to follow the God that you follow. Do you know the story about the 21, the Coptic Egyptian Christians that were killed? And it's broadcasted and it was recorded by ISIS. Alright? Originally it was 20 Christians. It was 20 Christians that were Egyptian Coptics. And then there was just one Guyanese guy. Right? He wasn't supposed to be there in the cell with them when they got captured by ISIS. Alright? So then the ISIS soldiers thought to them, what are you doing here, man? You're not a Christian. We're not supposed to kill you. You can go if you want. He himself, the Guyanese guy, said, no. Whatever God these guys believe in, I believe in him too. They were convinced by their devotion to God, their genuine faith, their willingness to put their lives for Christ. That's what he was convinced by. Do you think that when the Guyanese guy was in the cell with those other 20 Christians, his name's Matthew, by the way, the Guyanese guy, when he was in that cell with the 20 other Christians, do you think that he was asking about the transcendental argument, the theory of evolution? No. Because when you truly display the love of Christ, display who Christ is and what you do, right? Your actions speak for themselves. No words need to leave your mouth for people to see, this is God's people. I want to follow God. So I'll leave you with this. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? Humble yourself and follow Christ. I love you guys. God bless. Peace be with you, and Christ is risen. Have a great day.